Every company has difference makers, the people who go above and beyond what's required. This podcast is dedicated to the people who challenge the status quo and make good companies great. Today, we're sharing one story from one company in our effort to inspire others. Welcome to Difference Makers. Today, my guest is Christine Beckwith. Christine is President COO of 2020 Vision for Success Coaching. She's an award-winning industry executive sales leader prior to starting her coaching business. NAREB's best woman-owned business in banking, one of the most powerful women in banking in 2019. Also, Most Connected Mortgage Pro 2018-2019 by NMP Magazine. Best-selling author of 4 books now: Wise Eyes, Clear Boundaries, Breaking the Cycle, and Win or Learn. She is a sought-after public speaker and trainer, and she is awesome. And welcome, Christine. Thanks for being on Difference Makers.
Yay, I'm excited to be here. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. So I did some homework on you, a little snooping around before we got
Okay.
on. Okay. And here are some of the comments I got from some of the people you've worked with, some of the people that you've done training for. Awesome. Great heart. Genuine. Sincerely cares about people. And then I had one say, she's an assassin. She will make
Wow.
your people great. You know, you have said in some of the things that I've read about you and some of the things that we've gone into before in some of the other trainings and some of the other conversations is you've had a desire to do something big from the time you were a child. Is that right?
Definitely. I don't know how deep you want me to go into it. I don't want to cut you off.
No, so my
Yeah,
question is
you
where
know,
was that seed
yeah,
planted? How was that sparked? Like, where did that come from?
yeah. So I wrote in the beginning of my Wise Eyes, and that book took me like 10 years to write. And I wrote it as a sorry, sappy sucker on the beach in 2006 between a job that had ended after 12 years, that I was the senior vice president of H&R Block Mortgage at the time.
Hmm.
And I was in the boardroom that made the decision to close the firm down, putting myself out of work as well. Took the summer off, wrote that book. And the story I shared now that's very public is when I think and when I thought about writing a sales book about my success in my career and sharing lessons with other people, I drew off a story of when I was 8 years old and my grade school was doing its first mock Democratic run for president and vice president, student council and stuff.
Hmm.
And I would sit in that room enamored by this, explanation of these teachers of what was going to happen. And then you were asked to come up and sign up. And I didn't. And I think, well, I know now that the principal of the school saw that I was excited and also saw me not sign up. And so when I went back to my classroom over the loudspeaker, he called me to the principal's office, or they called me to the principal's office. And anyways, I went down, thought I was in trouble. I didn't know what I had done. Very long, nervous walk to the office. And here was this man that had seen something in me, and he had asked me, that day why I didn't sign up. And he said that he thought that I had what it took to be a really great leader, that he noticed in class that and he heard great things about me in class and things like that. And I gave him my objections, as most people do when you have a mentor, coach, leader confront you about something they see that's wrong or bothering. And I rattled off a number of reasons that were in my head that I'd never vocalized. I at the time, I love my parents, and my parents are still together, and they're
Hmm.
wonderful. They were teenage parents, but we were very poor. And so for whatever reason, I articulated that in that moment. And I also articulated, my doubts about my self-worth and my abilities. And so the story would go that he would give me some mentorship and suggest how I would go about doing it and suggest that I sign up. And he let me sign up, encouraged me to. And so I did. And I would win the seat for presidency that year after a process. And in the book, I unpack kind of what that felt like and all the lessons I learned from it and how that moment in my life changed everything for me. Because when I was 10 or 11 and then 12 and 14 and 16, I still faced like unsurmountable odds. I was in a very wealthy school. I wanted to go to college. I had no money to go to college. I had
Hmm.
guidance counselors that encouraged me to work hard. So fast forward, I'm 51 today. my life has been a series of overcoming and believing in myself, even when the voice of doubt, comes into my mind. I've taken a lot of public risk in my career, that has paid off, knock on wood.
Mm,
And so I would just, now I'm dedicated my life to paying it forward. I had
mm.
a lot of really incredible people bring me where I am. And now I'm going to spend the next decade doing the same.
Well, I think what's cool is that you started as an originator and you worked your way up to a branch manager and then a regional and then became an executive. And I
Mhm.
look at that and I say, what do you think helped you climb the ladder so quickly and continue to evolve and grow to new career heights? What was it
Yeah.
that fueled that, do you think?
I was a competitor. So when I became an originator, I was an understudy to a female originator through college. I went to school for sports medicine and nutrition. I've always been an athlete. I'm an athlete today. I lift weights, I run, I do whatever. Um, I just really, did well in originations. I was at the top of my ranks. I was in my first company, had about 200 originators, and I made my way to the top five, that which made way for me to become a branch manager. I then was amongst like 60 branch managers, and I became one of the top two branches. And then they made me a regional. And so the story would go, I'd kind of find my way each time competitively, strategically to the top. A lot of, I did look around. There weren't, a lot of people like me. I was one of two women in the 200 LO pool. I was the only branch manager out of 60 that was female. And I just never let that be a thing. I don't mind
Yeah.
saying publicly, like I just didn't pay attention. And it
Hmm.
never came into conversation, quite frankly, the entire time.
Hmm.
What I think allowed me to, go to those levels is, first I let people know that I wanted to career success. I teach a class today called Managing Up, and it's really about communication. People often miss the mark of their goals because other people that would grab them and help them up onto the next level don't even know you're questing, and you're secretly questing for this next thing in your career or life. I let it be known. I was very vocal. I want to go to this level and I want to go to this level. I tried many times to get to the next level, and I did have no's. My first quest for district management was a no. It took me 2 more years to go back, and I got it the second time. There were only 14 seats available, so that was discouraging, but I overcame it quickly and just, I did ask why I got, you know, looked over for the promotion the first time. And then I worked on what they gave me for advice and got it the second time. And so, in my mind and now in my writing, I come with a certain level of passion, I suppose. I'm a driver. People have, told me that I drive hard, and I do think that's true about
Hmm.
myself. And so I would just tell you to go for it. Like I've been going for it. Like my whole life, I've just been
Okay.
really pushing myself to the limits.
We're
Yeah.
going to get into that a little bit deeper in a minute. But a couple of other questions I want to ask you before we go deeper is, how do you describe your leadership style?
Yeah. So I have a tagline here called Emotional Awakening Through Education. In 2006, when I picked the domain name for 2020 Vision for Success Coaching, which would not come to life for another, 12 years, I knew I would build this named firm. And I had to decide what my philosophy was. And I spent about 6 months. This was before I became a published author, deciding what that philosophy is. And if you go on my website today, you will find that philosophy. And in a nutshell, I describe what ignites our souls and what, fires us up are the things that make us learn and stretch and reach and succeed. And so I believe that the success I've had, it became a lot harder. And I learned the hard way. When I had a team of 125 originators, it became really hard for me to move the needle because I was used to moving my own needle or a small team's needle. Now I
Mm,
had a whole army of people, and I equate it to driving a bus from the back seat. Like making those corners are a lot harder when you're trying to get everybody to lean right. And of course, people don't always do that. So I would totally spend a lot of time with leadership lessons, creating the vision of where we were going, creating a bigger story. There was a year that I took over a last place team. And anybody out there, if you're listening, please leave a comment if you were on this team, because it was a big team and we were in last place, but we made it to first place in 16 months. And we were competing against 14 other districts of the same size of 125. It was 8 branch managers and, lots of loan officers. And I created these pins called Moving On Up. I was very vocal about our numbers in the beginning. I didn't tell them we were going to become number one. I said, we need to get out of last place. And we need to not be the worst thing. So when we get here next month, we need to bring it. And then I hired new bodies. Like we had a veteran sales team and I just put like 25 rookies on the floor that were green and hungry. And, the veterans hated it, but it created competition. And I just kept telling the story. Every month we would go in and we would celebrate our wins. And soon enough, we were like in the middle of the pack, which was great. But I reminded everybody that we came a long way to become average. Like now we start, today's day one, that, what are we going to do from here? So I think my leadership style is I am kind of a courtside coach. I will always have the ball in my hand. Even literally, my son plays basketball. He's 15 years old. And I will go play hoops with him, and run drills with him on the weekends. And, I know strategy. I can look at games. And so I'm very much of the belief that what has made people, really bond with me is that when they hit their milestones, and that's true right now, running this organization, we have hundreds of people certifying, and every person that receives a certification is met with somebody at the finish line of that class to celebrate and honor that milestone. And it may be one of 50 things they're trying to do this year, but we know in advance what those milestones are. And we are there to celebrate those milestones. And then we turn right back around and we go to work for the next one. And so I think it's one part motivation. And I think it's 2-part kick in the ass, because everyone will tell you also that I'm a hard ass. And where that comes into play is that I will push you. And if you punch me back, I'm okay with it. If I poke you in the shoulder and I tell you something that is true, but something you don't necessarily want to hear, and you sit with it and it's hard, and I'm not rude or mean, but I will tell you what your deficits are. And if you sit and give me excuses, I will call BS on that. And I will push people to kind of get out of their comfort zone. So I definitely think I have an athletic sports type leadership mindset.
So, Christine, you were a corporate exec while raising a family, lots of hustle and sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
30 years, right? Before you put it all aside to start 2020, which is your business coaching agency specific to the mortgage industry.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you do it?
Why did I step aside to do this?
Yeah. Why did you put all of that aside to become a coach?
Yeah. I knew, again, going back to 06, when I sat on that beach after losing, closing down H&R Block Mortgage, that there was something in me. I didn't know I was writing a book. I just wrote that summer. I'm fidgety, and sitting around was hard for me. And I spent a fair amount of time during the day. I'd go to the beach every day. I'd go back and I'd find myself at my laptop unemployed. And I was like, what am I going to do today? I was managing 1,200 people before that happened. And so, I wrote, and I just thought, man, I want to encapsulate what made me successful, or I'm going to forget this. And I just kind of thought it was a Dear Diary type writing, and it sat for 10 years. But when you go ahead to where the intersection comes, I was lucky because I took a boutique shop, 50 LOs from a boutique shop in Boston, and Joe Penabianco through Ryan Cuby. Ryan Cuby and I worked together at H&R Block Mortgage. He had moved on to build a company called Village Home Mortgage in New Jersey. His CEO, Joe Penabianco, and him, the moment I landed in a new position, they flew to Boston and had dinner with me. And they said, we want to, broker the acquisition of this team, add it to our Village Home team, and let's grow another national firm. We know you have the bandwidth. And that's exactly what we did. And I spent the next 12 years building Annie Mac Home Mortgage with those guys. And so, over that time, I had an older sister that's a couple years older than me, who was battling terminal lung illness.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad got prostate cancer, and my mom had a brain aneurysm. and I went through a divorce. And so all of those things humbled me in life and made me question a lot of things about what I was really trying to accomplish. I had climbed the career mountain. I was at the top of Annie Mac. I was partnered in the end with Vince Ingui. And we were overseeing the entire national sales force, all the branch managers, all the originators. And I loved what I did, but I just kind of started questioning life's fragility and the morbid nature in which we all sometimes have to face that life, is not forever and things aren't always going to last. And I thought, man, you know, am I going to die one day with a trophy case full of awards that says I'm a great salesman? Is that what I want written on my gravestone? Or am I going to do one last chapter in this mortgage industry and leave my swan song and spend a decade paying forward what I know and build a company that will help thousands of people get their entry into this industry and leave it better than I found it? I knew what the competition was doing as well. And I love all those guys. They know that. I've hired them all of them. I could rattle off 20 top coaches and the names of those people. However, I think that I really wanted to do it differently. And to me, building a business is about strategy. It's about niching. When I think of like Subway, nobody needed another sandwich company. When I think about Whole Foods, nobody needed another grocery store. Nobody needed another coach or consulting firm. But I knew I was going to bring something different at the right time. Subway brought healthy sandwich eating to the fast food chain at a time when the health emergence in the US was growing, and Whole Foods did the same thing. And so I was listening and I was hearing that a lot of people were quitting coaching and consulting 3 to 6 months in because they felt like they were being driven into a round hole, and they were a square peg. And I thought, what if you could build a consulting firm that would be a la carte, and they would come here and it would be this enormous resource center. If they wanted to work on their health and wellness, they could get a coach for that. If they were depressed and going through something like I was at some point in my career, they could counsel with a depression counselor or a mental health coach. What if they need to work on their tech? What if they needed financial forensics? What if they needed reporting? What if they wanted to do branding? What if they wanted to write a book? And I started just asking all these things about modern marketing. And I'm proud to say, we're at the start of our third year. We have 41 employees. We're coaching almost 2,000 people. We have the bandwidth to go to 10,000. That was in my 5-year business model. And it doesn't feel like an assembly line. I mean, it is very, very personal and a la carte. And every person builds a business plan and so on and so forth. So I had an image of this. And about 2 years before I left Annie Mac, I had told Joe Penabianco at dinner when he hired me in 2007, I'll give you 3 to 5 years. And I gave him 12. And so right around year 10, I started to say to him, like, I'm going to go do this thing. And he was very encouraging in the end. But of course, he was my first client too, because the moment I opened my doors, Annie Mac signed a contract for the biggest package they could get, which is just a great compliment at the end of a long journey with them,
Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about tying emotions to goals, and that's often overlooked. Is that one of your more important ingredients for success, do you think? Or what traits do you think successful people share?
Yeah. I do think emotion is a nitrous to our businesses when we get it right. I think culture is born in organizations from being aware that your people are your greatest assets and recognizing that businesses succeed when people are healthy, mind, body, and soul. We run our businesses. Tactics are great, and we teach tactics, of course, but you really have to get the emotional piece right. What lights your fire? So many people come to us like drained from this field and worn out.
Yeah.
And it isn't just about work-life balance. It's like, let's get to that thing. And some of the people are mentoring here. We have a huge mentor program where you can become a mentor, and that's lighting a lot of people's fire. Like, paying it forward. We have 2 magazines that our students can be journalists in. Some people have never written before, so we have literally professional. We have 3 copyright editors here, and they will coach writers, brand new, never have written as a journalist before. Our magazines are written about our students, by our students. Anyways, yes, emotion's big. I kind of got, there was a time in my life that I was ribbed. I'm going to use the word ribbed over other words that may sound more negative. Um, about how emotional I was. Like what you see right now is what I was like at 25 and 30 and 35 and so on. And of course, I would come off doing a annual meeting and I would give my rah speech, and I would have men loudly joke or rib with me. Oh, well, you did your cheerleading thing. And it was a very backhanded compliment because they'd say great job, but I could tell that they like felt like it was corny, or it was, I don't know. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. And at times in my life growing up, I thought like, who am I and what am I? And it took me to get to that point. And trust me, and everybody listening right now, you have a glorious place you're going to arrive to in your future life. And it's going to be the I don't give a what point in your life. And I crossed that rainbow bridge many years ago. And now I know who I am, and I know that it's not for everybody, but I know living in my highest and best purpose and authentically has increased the bonding I have with those people who do understand me. And I'm okay with those that don't understand me. I could have let that deter me in my career because it certainly felt mean, and it certainly felt bad. And I had some pretty jealous men in my career that would have put their foot out in front of me to trip me if given the opportunity. And I had enough fierceness in me, my whole career. I get asked all the time, did I have, discrimination? Did I have diminishment? Did I have all these things? And I answer it very gently. And I say this: I had the same stuff, probably same percentages of everything that everybody else had, but I didn't see myself as a victim. I dealt with it when the fights or the obstacles came. I dealt with them one-on-one. I have a very man-to-man attitude, which is, if you, I will not, I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But
Okay, Michael.
if you step up, yeah, right. If you step up to the plate, and this isn't me pounding my chest, it's just a fact. If you step up to the plate or the mat and you bring it to me, I will stand, and I will deal with it. And so anyways, here I am, and emotion is definitely a huge part of this. Successful people are made up of people, in my mind, that do a lot of things right. They typically manage their schedules well. They understand what sells well and what converts. They analyze their businesses, so they statistically understand strategy. They're willing to pivot. A lot of them times the successful people are chasing some sort of goal, whether it be money or status or whatever it might be. They're motivated on some level that way.
Difference Makers is powered by Verity Search. In today's competitive war for talent, they understand recruiting requires having a strong sales and marketing approach. Recruiting is not posting jobs online and waiting for unqualified people to apply. It's active, it's engaging, and it's working with people while maintaining extreme confidentiality. Their solutions and techniques are innovative and brave, but based on industry knowledge and key identification strategies. Some of the key services include strategy planning, research, marketing, prospect identification, qualification, and recruitment across all markets and geographies. If you'd like more information, please check out the website at veritysearch.com.
You believe that the reasons people fail can be boiled down to a lack of inspiration, hope, drive, or direction. How do you help people uncover these hidden drivers?
Yeah. Honestly, it starts with kind of, we have something called the Blueprint for Success here, which is my business plan. And the very first assignment is a 35-minute class where I unpack, really statistically what goal setting does, and anchoring, and rallying your key stakeholders, and strapping on the right amount of enhancers and supports to your business, and facing what your obstacles are and understanding how you're going to measure whether you're successful or not. And so the very first thing I do is align everybody's vision to what they're after. And it's interesting study because we're not here. I feel like other coaching firms tell you, oh, you're doing $10 million, a month as a branch. Well, you should be doing, what do you want to be doing? And of course, when you ask a pointed question, people always want more. Oh, I'd love to be doing 20 million.
Mhm.
And then the coaches and consultants that I compete with will legitimately lock down a plan that does nothing but build biceps in the production zone. They'll okay, you're going to drop and give me 50 push-ups every day, and you're going to report in that you did those 50 push-ups. And I get what they're doing, and I know that money is a motivator, and we do increase production here. But I have a different kind of person that's attracted to our consulting firm. Typically, it's an already high-producing person that knows they want to run with wolves. There's wolves over here. Like, it's like-minded. People are working on their business. They are learning how to be CEOs instead of working in their businesses. They're working on their businesses. I don't know. We have a weekly sales call every week. It's 20 minutes long, and it's me spitballing some philosophy. I have a passion for this. So it's kind of like monologuing, but hundreds of people come in every Tuesday for this call. And it's like they're, pulling their car in kind of to the pit crew in a race, and they're just making sure they're filling their air, their tires, their gas tanks. And they sit, and I just, I pour my heart into what I believe their businesses should mean. It's very typically pointed. Yesterday we talked about fishing. And so I literally put up a slide with 5 tactics, and I talked about great fishermen in sales and what the, bad fishermen do. And, a lot of metaphoric training, but stories peppered in. I can't even tell you, when I hung up yesterday on that Zoom, and this happens every week, I get endless texts, endless emails, where people write and say, man, that's just what I needed. Like, that was just what I needed. Like, I needed that this week. So I don't know, whatever I'm doing is working. I'm kind of like slapping my hands and telling them to get out on the court and make some plays. We're here to catch them when they fall down. And I don't know. I guess I'm passionate about what I do. And so the way you hear me right now, pretty much like this, the way I wake up and the way I go down. And anyways.
Yeah. So you said something earlier, like, I was asking myself, who am I? Why am I here? I've had those moments, right? And it's almost an out of body experience. Like, what is this skin suit I'm in? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And I think that's what's great about your coaching, is that, we don't get up and just live by accident, and that we create this awareness about where we're at, what our purpose is, and what we're trying to do. And I guess the question I came up with for you, and I want to ask you this, is, success in winning, right? Losing's not fun. Losing feels like shit, but success in winning, why does somebody want to be successful and win? Is there something addictive about it? Is it the endorphins? Is it because it feels good? What is it? What is it that drives
Yeah.
people to want that over and over and over?
I think people very much want to believe they're on the right path. I believe that learning and growing and developing is 2 parts, 2 things. If you've ever talked to the person that says, I'm not going to coach because I know everything. I'm a veteran LO. I've been doing this 20 years. What do I need to learn? I don't know too many people that will stand up and say, I don't need to learn anything, but you know what I mean? The types that are like, I don't need coaching.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not trying to, and I will tell you, I talk at least a half a dozen people out of coaching every month. I get the final call on sales. And if I had a lady, hope she's not listening to this podcast, that literally said, convince me to do coaching. And I literally said, that is never going to happen. I am not here. I don't need to, that's the wrong way to go about self-development. Like, you need to come, like, I'm the gym, right? You need to work out, and you need to come here and work out. I can't work out for you. And I can't, and I'm not I'm not selling, that you need to look better. I think you look fine. And I'm sure your business is great. You are coming here to do better, and you're going to add to my community. And I can tell you right now, if you come into my community with an attitude of show me that you're great, I'm probably going to fail, because I'm not going to try to impress you. I'm just going to give you the resources that we have, and so on and so forth. So, successful people, I find, want to know they're on the right path. I had a couple come into me and they said, man, every year we make $1 million, but we want to make $2 million. And we believe with the right person pushing us, we can do that. Along the journey, that couple started to coach together. Well, they started coaching together. They started coaching separately and together. And during the separate conversations, they were both talking about each other and how their relationship was not doing well. And as we dug into some of that, we realized that this goal they had set for themselves was tearing their lives apart. They were questing this goal. So that allowed us to kind of go back to the drawing board and say, let's talk about what the price tag is for this goal. And let's talk about what your vision for success is. This is why I named this company this. Is your vision for success $2 million, or is your vision for success that you're going to run a profitable business where you gain satisfaction every day by doing a good job and giving the American dream, that affords you a lot of luxury in your life to live a well-supported, secured life? And where does the happiness come into that picture? Like, let's talk about happiness ROI. We talk about it all the time here. And I had to go through this myself. I spent 30 years, and I will tell you, the awards, the trophies meant everything to me at some points in my life. I would tell you they were my survival at some points, in some pretty lonely points in my life. And for me, that's what my vision for success was that year. As I aged and I had a child and I wanted to be there for his baseball and his basketball games, my vision for success became, I want to work for a living and give him a secure home. But man, won't be winning if when I leave this world, he thinks, man, I had a cool mom, and she was a good mom. Like, she showed up at everything when it mattered. I've driven home. I missed a flight in Philadelphia, and he had a Little League game. And he had called me that morning. He was so excited that I was going to come. I legitimately rented a car and drove 9 hours, and I made it there for that because there were no other flights. And it would have been easy for me to say, I'm sorry, honey, I can't come. But I was not. These are the things in my life that have given me such joy. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't make the money that I made in the mortgage industry as a consultant today. It's a lot of money to run this operation. And so the margins are far thinner than a mortgage company. I do well, but I am more fulfilled today than I have ever been, because every single day I get to come to work and honestly do great work. My cup is so full by the people's lives I'm changing. I know I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And so, I think success is something that eludes people. And so one of the things we really try to do in the blueprint up front is ask the really tough questions that other consultants aren't asking in this field. Because I really think other consultants are saying, how much money do you want to make? How much production do you want to do? How much bigger do you want to get? And I think that's great for the new guy that's coming here that has no production. We will make him a millionaire if he wants that. We have the means to do that. If that's his vision for success, if his chapter in his life is production focused only, we got him. We got her. We got it. However, I really think we are the calibration in our industry of right lining people's vision for what success really means for them. And so that's where I think we really make a difference.
I think that it is so vital to have people like you that shine the light for everyone else that maybe doesn't understand why they're in a negative funk, or doesn't understand why they're not successful, or even why they are successful. And you talk a lot about a positive mindset lending to a positive outcome. How do I keep a positive mindset, Christine? How do I dig out of a negative funk? Now that there's some awareness, right? If I'm listening to this podcast, how do I do that?
I think the very first thing, we do a class called The Power of Positivity, and it's based on a scientific set of tactics. And so it was written by Dr. Barbara L. Fredericks from the Northern University of Carolina. And so I don't mind sharing with the listeners right now a really quick 2-minute lesson. If you're sitting on the fence of your emotion, let's say you're straddling it, in front of you is an arc like a rainbow. And on one side, if you drew a line right down the middle of that arc, was all your positive emotions, and all your negative emotions resided on the other side. This doctor, who was a collegiate professor, did a study and submersed people into negative and positive environments, and then followed them for 10 years. And what they discovered is that every day that we wake up, we have good intentions to be positive, of course, but things happen that pull us over the fence to the negative side that are happening to us. Stress is happening to us, anxiety, illness, death, divorce, hurt, like all these things are getting thrown at us.
Mm-hmm.
And it pulls us to the negative side. And we can only do two things when we're over in the negative realm of mindset, and that is fight or flight. This is true scientifically. So if you think about your day right now, or the days in the last week, and you think about times when you wanted to stand and fight with somebody or run away, you, my friend, were in a negative mindset. Now, we can't protect ourselves from negative mindset. Like it's going to happen. However, really successful people get that positive mindset is about filling the cup. Can we get more deposits made in the positive spectrum? Because in the positive mindset, we're building and broadening. So here's a really interesting thing. If you've been doing home improvements, if you've been creating things, if you're an arts and craftsman, if you're a fisherman, if you're an artist, if you've been doing hobbies, athletics, if you're growing things, if you're working on your business, working on yourself, you are living in a broaden and build mindset by and large. And while bad things may be happening to the people that are in that broaden and build mindset, which is the positive mindset, they don't usually keep them there. They usually come back. And you know why? Because the people that really understand this are making deposits all day long in the positive mindset. I wake up every day and I do some quotes that are positive. People call that what they will. People think I post, we post, obviously we have a big marketing team, but when I post those quotes early in the morning, that's me. And when I'm doing that for me, believe it or not. I'm doing that to say, this is how I feel. And I'm okay if it gets no likes, no attention, no anything. I legitimately needed to just send out into the universe, man, this is what I believe. Like I'm going to church for my business that day. And once I do that, I go work out and I hydrate really well. And I take breaks during the day to walk, to, take a minute to walk. I use all the time management stuff that I have. I read positive books. I won't even watch movies that I don't think have some form of, positive mindset. I'm very protective of my mind. I don't hang around negative people. I actually will extrapolate you from my life if you're negative. And people know that about me too. Like if you come to me, I don't gossip. Here's an interesting thing. I gave up gossiping about 4 years ago. And so that's hard, by the way. It was so hard for me to adapt this way to speak in the world because there's so much crap to talk about. And I just don't. I have 2 rules. If I'm going to say your name and it's going to come out of my mouth, the only time I can speak like that is if I'm doing something to heal myself, heal somebody else, or help somebody. So I will, of course, counsel another coach on a student that I did a counseling with and hand them off so they can do work with it. And I have to talk about that student. That to me is not gossiping, but I will not gossip. And people that gossip with me, I literally will acknowledge what they're saying to me and I add nothing to the conversation. And then I have an opinion, but I just, so I just am super protective of that. I would tell you that I'm a physical trainer of the mind. In my mind, I am a physical trainer of what makes us great mindset wise. And I'm going to tell you this, my books will tell you Breaking the Cycle was the most emotional book I have ever written. I think I cried writing that book from end to end. And I'm not saying this to sell books, but Breaking the Cycle is the story of my life's memoir. And I talk about, I went through clinical depression. I was hospitalized during that process in my adult life. And I've shared that publicly. And so I think because I am real and I know that we're fragile and we can break, that I'm really aware that we have to really show up every day and do our best to protect our minds. And, that's what I do. I don't win every day. I have bad days like everybody else. I will tell you, if I have a bad day, you'll see me go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night. I have this game I play with myself, but I want the bad day to end early. And so I legitimately will go to bed at 8 o'clock and shut everything off. And I just want to turn the page because I know when I wake up the next day, the bad day's over. And that's it. So that's kind of how I roll.
You're incredibly interesting, and we could do this for I have probably another hour's worth of depth and conversation. Sounds like I need to sign up for some coaching though. So you've got 4 books. Are they all available on Amazon?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
so
they
what
all
we'll
are,
do
yeah.
is we'll put it on the screen. We'll put a graphic on the books, and we'll also put your website
Awesome.
here at the bottom of the screen. So if anyone's interested
Great.
in getting with Christine and getting better, improving yourself, whatever the case may be, or discovering what your purpose is, or finding that drive, or why you do what you do, I think what you're doing right now, Christine, man, if I could do that, I mean, I probably could do that because you're going to tell me I could if I wanted to, right? But man, what you do is so
Make it a
necessary.
plan.
We've got to have coaches. We've got to have coaches, and you are exceptional at it. From the people I've talked to about you before this
Oh,
podcast, you've got some raving fans. So I want to say thank you.
thank
You've
you.
been incredibly generous with your time, and it's really been a pleasure for me to finally get to maybe get some of the insights into who you are and what drives you.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to pay you a compliment. I'm on a lot of podcasts and I get a lot of interviews, and your questions were really good. I mean that. I don't always get asked the things you asked me. It made me think. I get asked a lot of ordinary stuff, and I feel like you got deep with me. So I'm kind of happy to know that we'll put this out in the universe and people will get a different aspect of,
Well,
my mindset and why I do
that's
things and stuff.
yeah. So we want to
Yep.
know why you're a difference maker, and you certainly are. So thank you again. Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Thank you.
Difference Makers is available on Spotify, YouTube, and all the major platforms. Make sure to subscribe today so you don't miss a single episode.